Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto, Willies. Welcome to Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto, Willies, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. And of course, good morning to the United States of America. Good morning to the entire world listening to us via the magic of El Internet. First of all, folks, thank you so kindly for being here. You know that internet was created under the DOD with something called the ARPANET, but it's now controlled by the billionaires, something that we must take back if we are to take back our country. Anyhow, we got a lot to talk about today, but without further ado, we go to the geniuses in El Estudio with El Señor Howard Reynolds and Jacques Van Beba.
And here we are. Good morning, Egberto. We're working on the tin cans and string. Our interim general manager, we can hear him, but he can't hear us. So we're going to find out why. And so it's Blitz Drive time again, and we're in need of some funding. 713-526-5738. Extension number 1 on Monday morning at the radio, the 27th of October, 2025. And Jack, what you got, man?
Well, I got your headlines here, Egberto. Today's Politics Done Right dives into the moral, political, and cultural crossroads defining America in 2025. From a senator's stunning rebuke of Donald Trump's extrajudicial killings to a conservative strategist exposing Trump's authoritarian economic control. We explore a country grappling with its democratic identity. Add to that the Texas culture war at the Alamo and the Humble Area Democrats' vital voting guide for state constitutional amendments, and it's clear that the battle for truth, justice, and participation is far from over. This show asks listeners to confront the lies, power grabs, and the rewriting of history with the civic courage this moment demands. Right on, Egberto.
Yeah, if we're going to can we rewrite Donald Trump losing? Can we write a better president? I was just asking.
Oh man! You know something, from your tongue to our ears, man. Anyway, folks, we're going to have a great show. What else? How was your weekend, guys?
Oh, it was good. We're going to go behind the scenes here to see if we can get Sandy on, and we'll let you know.
Okay, no problem. You guys go take care of business as we get started here, folks. Remember, we are still in fund drive, but we still have a complete and full program for you. We got a lot to talk about today. Of course, we want to hear your voice at 713-526-5738 later on, but we got some important subjects to discuss. But before I get there, let me suggest that those of you who have the wherewithal, as we get started, give us a call, 713-526-5738, extension number 1, to donate whatever you can. The best way to do that is either, again, that number or online, KPFT.org. We have a lot of offers for you. Actually, what it really is these are saying thank you for being a part of keeping us on air. You can become a sustainer by doing $5 a month, $10 a month, or however you can. And please do remember that we still have available Coffee with Egberto, and it's a lot of fun when we do it. I drive in Harris County or the Tifa surrounding counties. We meet for some coffee and we discuss whatever you want to talk about. And that's a $250 contribution. And of course, you also have our KPFT Politics Done Right t-shirt. That's a $100 contribution. So there are many, many ways in which, and by the way, you can give whatever you want. Those are options that we have there. But do remember, you have the option to do whatever you want to help defray the costs that we have to keep us alive. Anyway, without further ado, let's get busy. Welcome aboard, Kathy Walker, Martinique Akifonsil. How are you doing, dear Pookie? Dear Pookie? Yeah, that's interesting. R. Vogels Javansi and Gam, Joanne from, I think it's Los Angeles, California. And Elwin Hudson. How you guys doing this morning? I trust everybody's doing fine, including our good friend, John A. Davis. Well, In preparing the show yesterday, I was going to have it all on these sort of national issues. Then something happened that said, you know what, this is the lead today. But it's not only the lead today, but it's something that affects all over the country because it is a standard modus operandi of the current people in power, both in Texas and nationally. And we have got to get this covered. Welcome aboard, Elvira and Dini Pettyjohn, Susan Howard, Chris Lamberger. Thank you for being here. And this is what I want to talk about. In Texas, there is an organization. Everybody ever heard? All of you around the country have heard of the Alamo, the Alamo, the Alamo. And it's all the myth is that the Alamo is this war that went on between Mexico and the Texans looking for their liberation. And that's what's taught, right? That's what's been taught all the while. Well, they're redoing a whole lot at the Alamo, and this particular, I tell you, let me go to the article. That's better. The article is well written. And Elwin, you did write Buenos Dias just fine. Of course, the tilde on the I is generally the case, but hey, that's neither here nor there. All right. Alamo Trust president resigns after Dan Patrick calls for her removal. Dan Patrick is the lieutenant governor of Texas. The lieutenant governor has insisted that the Alamo stories remain focused on the 1836 battle over broader narratives addressing indigenous people and slavery. In other words, just go ahead and tell the myth. Don't tell Americans what it's all about, what really happened, because, I don't know. The Americans may feel bad. I don't think so. History is history is history. There's no ideology behind it. History is history. Anyway, the president of the Alamo Trust, which manages the historic site, resigned after Lieutenant Governor Patrick called on her to do so, as much over views she expressed in a doctoral dissertation in 2023, suggesting she disagrees with Republican leaders. Kate Rogers said Friday that she had submitted her resignation Thursday with mixed emotions following a letter from Dan Patrick sent the Alamo Trust boards of directors about Rogers, writing that she said were incompatible with telling the history of the battle. I am lost. I'm very, very lost. Trust, she got canned because what she wanted to say was incompatible with the telling of the history of the Battle of the Alamo. In other words, she got canned because she no longer wanted to lie. It became evident through recent events that it was time for me to move on. I'm incredibly proud of the team we built and the work we did together over the past 4.5 years, Rogers said. I remain grateful to the board for this incredible opportunity that enabled me to grow both personally and professionally, and our state's leadership and the legislature for their generous support. Later Friday, the Alamo Trust Board announced former Secretary of State Hope Andrade would be the organization's next president and chief executive. Neither Alamo Trust officials or spokespersons returned any commentary. In the excerpt of her dissertation that Patrick posted on social media, Rogers described the competing politics of Republican state leaders who want the 1836 battle to be the primary focus of the Alamo's redevelopment, and of local officials from Bexar County and the city of San Antonio who have pushed for projects to do what again? Tell the full story of the site, including its beginning as home to indigenous people. Personally, I would love to see the Alamo become a beacon for historical reconciliation and a place that brings people together versus tearing them apart, wrote Rogers, who was serving as the Alamo's Trust executive director at the time. But politically, that may not be possible. You hear that? Personally, she wanted to tell the truth, but telling the truth would not be politically possible at this time. She added, for all these reasons, I had to be very careful with my study and its implications, as it could have negative consequences for the Alamo project as well as my job. In the ed dissertation, which examined the role of historic sites and museums in supporting social studies instructions in K through 12 classrooms, Rogers also described the conservative agenda of the 2023 legislative session. She noted bills that ban educators from teaching critical race theory and prohibit the discussion of slavery. And she discussed the book Forget the Alamo, which argued that maintaining chattel slavery was a primary motivator in Texas' fight for independence, which that's what the fight was really about. Perhaps the biggest dilemma for me as a researcher had to do with my own political views and my current environment, Rogers wrote. Philosophically, I do not believe it is the role of politicians to determine what professional educators can or should teach in the classroom. Instead, teachers should be afforded the autonomy to make those decisions based on their own expertise as well as the needs of their students. In other words, once again, tell the damn truth. Patrick's successful call for Rogers' ouster was just the latest flashpoint in a long-running debate over how the story of the Alamo should be presented. Republican state leaders have largely demanded the site remain focused on the 13-day siege and legendary 1836 Battle of the Alamo. In other words, don't tell the true history. Rejecting broader narratives that address the indigenous people of the area and consider the role slavery played in the Texas Revolution. Well, Texas became a state because an independent nation, actually, because, well, I'll talk to you about that afterwards. Patrick's urging was also the most recent instance of Republican state leaders moving to oust people from their jobs over perceived differences in political ideology. History isn't ideology. History is history. History is history. Lying history is what ideology can add. Let's remember that. A handful of professors, administrators, and students at public universities in Texas have been fired or expelled over the past few months after conservative lawmakers seized on evidence that they had mocked the assassination of conservative activist Charlie Kirk or discussed LGBTQ issues in the classroom settings. In other words, they've lied. They've lied. In statement Thursday, Trey Martinez Fisher, Democrat of San Antonio, urged the board of the Alamo Trust to give Rogers all due considerations and the full opportunity to contextualize her writings. Alamo Trust President and CEO Dr. Kate Rogers has done the unimaginable. As recently as yesterday, indicators have shown the Alamo plan is on time and on budget, all with Rogers at the helm. Martinez Fisher said, the roughly $500 million restoration and expansion of the Alamo includes a new museum and visitor center, which is slated to open in 2027 and include 8 galleries that cover the history of the Alamo from its indigenous context through the Battle of the Alamo and its legacy in Texas. In 2015, the General Office, which oversees the Alamo, Bexar County, and the city of San Antonio, agreed to a set of guiding principles that include telling the entire history of the Alamo area and embracing the continuum of history to foster understanding and healing. She was doing her job. She was asked to lie. In his letter to the board, Patrick wrote that, of course, the entire story of the Alamo will be told, but the overriding emphasis must be on the 13 days of glory, as nearly 200 men gave their lives to defend liberty and freedom for Texas. You see, that's a false narrative. 200 gave their lives to ensure that Texas would be a slave state. But we'll get to that after we do a little bit more pitching. Good morning, LV Profesora. She says, running late, but tuning in, sending love and prayers to our brothers and sisters in Jamaica this morning, and you are correct. Seems like they're getting a direct hit from Hurricane, I think it's Hurricane Melissa. But anyhow, is Sandy available yet, Howard?
Well, let's find out. Yo, Sandy.
Let's find out. I hope so.
Yes, you.
Good morning,
Good
everyone.
morning, brother.
It is. Yeah, well, it's Monday morning and everything was working right, and then it wasn't. It's just Monday morning, the very definition, if you look it up. We are still in fund drive, folks, and it looks like I'm projecting, depending on how we do, another 10 days to 2 weeks, we'll see how it goes. Currently, we stand at $105,262 from 642 distinct acts of kindness. So thank you. We've gotten this far. Our overall goal is 175,000 on this drive. If one of you out there happens to have an extra, $69,000, $70,000 in their back pocket, slap it down. We'll end the fund drive. But then again, I'm not trying to be funny on a Monday morning. I'm hoping that a few of you have maybe $5 or $10 a month each to throw our way as we begin this week of fundraising to keep KPFT on the air. We, as you know, most of you know, we celebrated our 55th anniversary on March 1st. So we're 55 and a half for all intent and purposes on our way to 56 and on our way to 2026 with the funds that we're collecting now. The funds we collect now represent what we're going to use to pay bills up into the month of February next year. So it's a critical time for us, critical time for everyone in the United States to have programming like we air, such as Politics Done Right. If you can be supportive, if you choose to do so this morning, you dial 713-526-5738, option 1, or you can go to our website, kft.org, and click donate, or you can download the app, the KPFT radio app on your phone, and donate right off the app. It also makes it very convenient to take us with you wherever you might roam. Again, our number is 713-526-5738. We have a modest $500 goal, and we're waiting on that first pledge. 18 minutes into the show. Be the first on a Monday morning to step up and support KPFT radio, and then go out the rest of the week and tell your friends what you did. Egberto.
Thank you so kindly for that. Let's make Sandy let's try to make Sandy a bit inaccurate. Let's try to get so much money in that Sandy come in and say, guess what, Egberto? We can actually cut the fund drive, not from another 5 or 10 days, but we can cut it sooner. Let's do that. Right, Sandy?
Right on, brother.
Right on. Let's make the man inaccurate, man. But look, for real, we need to start raising some money for this week on the show, and we are at a big donut. So at your convenience, hopefully now, please give us a call at 713-526-5738, extension number 1 to donate, or go to kpft.org, click that donate button and select the option for the gift that you want, and make sure to say it is for Politics Done Right. And remember, we can get this stuff with 2 people calling in for a coffee with Egberto, and you know what, we'll be done. Actually, I'll be still asking for more, because we want to make sure that if we can pull in a whole lot in this show, that as we go on, everything becomes shorter. We can make it shorter. But look, why not give us a call now and give whatever you can? $5 a month, $10 a month, a one-time contribution, whatever you can. 713-526-5738, extension number 1, or go to kpft.org and hit that donate button. And I think we have our first one from Aaron. Aaron, thank you so kindly. Aaron is calling in from Spring, Texas. Thank you so kindly for Aaron. Every dollar counts. Thank you so kindly from that is Spring, Texas, and that is Aaron. Folks, give us a call, 713-526-5738. Is that transmitter station that had its transmitters blown up by the KKK? Elwyn Hudson? Yes, we were blown up by the KKK. We came back. We were blown up again, and we came back. People, when we were at the location on our first location, or no, I think it's probably our second location there in Montrose, we were actually, bullet holes went through the windows as well. We have a shot, and I think that door is still at the new building on Caroline, where somebody shot. The bullet went past the head of the person, whoever was in the control room, and went through the door and the glass, the bullet hole is still in that glass. So yeah, we've been through a lot at KPFT. Many times people would pass and shoot up the station. Yep. So that is the answer. I tell you what, before I go further, Ilan is on the line. Ilan, come on in.
Good morning. This is Ilan with Policies Done Left. I congratulate you for giving crystal clear vision of the Alamo. The history is always revised by the winners. I wanted to give a factual picture of what's happening in the next day with Melissa. It's now Category 5, one of the strongest hurricanes ever recorded in the Caribbean. You remember how Puerto Rico was wiped out some years ago, and this is going to be as bad or worse for Jamaica. So Melissa's still moving slowly westward right now, but the top winds are 315 kilometers an hour. If you can picture traveling the length of a football field in 1 second, that's how fast the winds are blowing around the central eye. So that's going to turn northward and cross Jamaica and then head on towards Cuba. One thing I do not hear the media speaking about is the prisoners in Guantanamo, because the big danger with hurricanes besides the wind is a storm surge. The waters will rise up 13 feet deep with big waves on top of that. So what's become of the prisoners they have in Guantanamo? And then the hurricane, somewhat weakened, will move across the Bahamas. And one more time, Bermuda is going to be hit by a hurricane. It will be Category 1 by then. So that's what's going on with the hurricane. Heavy rains, high winds, and of course we'll have refugees from Jamaica. So this is Ilan.
Thank you, Ilan, for the report.
In crowd. Talk to you later.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for the report. That is sad. That is sad what's going to happen to Jamaica because, again, Category 5, worst hurricane in the Caribbean. Just for your information, in Guantanamo, there are now only 15 prisoners left. I am pretty sure they're probably going to make sure and take them to higher ground and protect them. But this is bad for Jamaica. You're absolutely right. Before I continue with the Alamo, I want to remind folks that, yes, in fact, we are still in fund drive mode. We are still almost $500 away from our goal. Please give us a call at 713-526-5738, extension number 1, or go to kpft.org and please donate whatever you can. Again, we are looking for $5 a month. Think about a coffee. We can give KPFT one of the many coffees that we buy every month. Can we give one of those or two of those? The last time I said $5 a month, Sandra's like, I don't know where you've been buying coffee. Coffee don't cost $5 a month anymore. It's closer to $10. I mean, a cup of coffee is closer to $10. Well, look, I give $10 a month for KPFT. And I think if more of us gave $10 a month, I mean, think about how we could really cut down on what we're doing here as far as pitching instead of promoting what we need to promote here. So again, please, $10 a month, $5 a month, whatever you can. Give us a call, 713-526-5738. The KPFT Politics and Right t-shirt, $100. Or Coffee with Egberto. If you go to the website and you click donate, and when you're searching for whatever you want, just type in my name, Egbert Berto, and I'll drive around any part of Harris County within bounds or surrounding counties, and we will have coffee and we'll sit down and have a great chat. And let me tell you, I went on one about 2.5 weeks ago with a young lady who is on furlough from her government job right now. And we had a great conversation, great time talking and discussing what's happening today, and also discussing a lot of what she does, which was very, very interesting as she worked for NOAA. But anyhow, let me get busy with completing that story on the Alamo. Since then, Patrick wants to make sure that you never find out the truth about what it was all about. Again, look, we are here. No, land was taken from folks. Land was fought over. This is something that occurred by every country, everything all over the world. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't learn history. It's not like somebody's going to go ahead and change. Well, let's go ahead and tell some truth here. The real reason for the Battle of the Alamo is far more complex than the mythic version taught in many American classrooms. Far from being a simple fight for freedom, which it was not. I could actually say it was a fight to make sure that many were not free. It was fundamentally a conflict rooted in slavery, land, and the expansion of Anglo-American economic interests into Mexican territory. Here's the context. When Mexico won independence from Spain in 1821, it sought to populate its northern territories, what are now Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, California, to protect them from U.S. expansion. Mexico invited Anglo settlers to Texas under strict conditions. They had to convert to Catholicism, swear allegiance to Mexico, and abide by its laws, including its 1829 abolition of slavery. However, the majority of settlers known as Texians, that's the I in between the A, the majority were slaveholders from the American South who depended on enslaved labor to grow cotton. When Mexico banned slavery, it directly challenged the economic foundation of these settlers' ambition. Now, the conflict that led to the Alamo began when Mexico tried to enforce its abolition laws and curb illegal immigration from the United States. It's funny, right? They were trying to curb illegal immigration from the United States into Texas and into Mexico. By 1830, Mexico had already been that many Anglo settlers were ignoring its laws and acting as if Texas were an American colony. The Mexican government responded by 1. Banning further U.S. immigration into Texas, 2. Attempting to collect taxes and duties, and 3. Demanding the freeing of enslaved people held by Anglo settlers. This enraged many of the settlers who saw Mexico's anti-slavery enforcement as tyranny. Anti-slavery was tyranny. For even independence was not about liberty in a universal sense. It was about preserving the right to enslave people and control the land. This is history anybody can find, folks, but they don't want it to be told at the museum at the Alamo, which was a central issue. The Alamo, they always wanted to look at it as a symbol of resistance and freedom. By 1835, tensions boiled into army rebellion. Mexican President Antonio López de Santa Anna, determined to maintain national unity and enforce the abolition of slavery, led troops into Texas to suppress the uprising. The Alamo, a former Spanish mission in San Antonio, became a stronghold for the rebels. The defenders, many of whom were recent U.S. arrivals, framed their resistance as a fight for freedom. But their definition of freedom was narrow. Freedom for white settlers to govern themselves and keep their slaves, not freedom for all people under Mexican law. Santa Anna's forces crushed the defenders on March 6, 1836, killing figures later mythologized as David Crockett, William V. Travis, and James Bowie. Yet these men were fighting not for democracy, but for a version of independence that enshrined slavery and white dominance. And you know who didn't want you to know that? Our governor and lieutenant governor. They don't want you to know the truth. They want you to live by the mythology of great men who were fighting for liberty against those people south of the border. After the massacre, remember, the Alamo became a rallying cry for Texans, forces who soon defeated Santa Anna at the Battle of San Jacinto. Texas, right here close to Houston, declared independence and became a slave republic, explicitly protecting slavery in its constitution. When Texas joined the United States in 1845, it did so as a slave state, directly contributing to the growing sectional conflict that ultimately led to the Civil War. The Alamo myth of brave pioneers fighting Mexican tyranny was later elevated by Anglo historians and Hollywood, erasing the central role of slavery and imperialism. The real story reveals that the Alamo was less about liberty and more about white settler colonialism, Manifest Destiny. And for those who remember Manifest Destiny, we had the God-given right to move west and kill anything in the path, and the defense of slavery under the guise of freedom. In truth, the Alamo illustrates how national myths can mask the moral contradictions at the heart of empire building. While Mexico stood on the side of abolition and sovereignty, the insurgents stood for a vision of expansion rooted in racial hierarchy. Recognizing this doesn't erase the bravery of those who fought. It reclaims history from the distortion of power. Understanding the Alamo's true context allows Americans to confront the uncomfortable fact that much of early U.S. expansion was driven not by liberty, but by domination and profit. Knowing the truth it can be very liberating, and it doesn't harm who anybody is. It doesn't harm the goodness or evil of any individual, because every individual determine whether they want to be a good person or not, whether they want to secure liberty and freedom for all or not. That's an individual thing, irrespective and not connected to one's ethnicity, race, religion. None of that matters if what you're looking for is the good of humanity. But history is essential. It not only prevents us from repeating it again, but it also ensures that we can move forward. And we'll talk about the Guadalupe Hidalgo a little bit later, but this is Fund Drive, and I only have one very small contribution. We're full away from making our quota for this morning. As Sandy said, $500. I'd love even more to make sure that we can stay on track. So please call 713-526-5738, extension number 1 to donate. I'm going to get now that we've spoken about the Alamo, I said I was given meat, and I think we did a little bit of that. We have some more to go with the Guadalupe Hidalgo Treaty that actually, closed out the things. But man, we need some contributions now. We need to keep this stuff online. 713-526-5738, extension number 1, or go to kpft.org, hit that donate button and donate now so that I can see it come up on the screen, and also say thank you, thank you, thank you. We've had over this fund drive, as Sandy spoke about, 600 something people that were generous to give us. We have thousands of listeners from the morning through the night, tens of thousands of listeners more. Can some more of you, in the kindness of your heart and the sense of responsibility to ensure that there is at least one station in Houston that is not riddled by the plutocracy that tells them what they can say. Dan Patrick can't close us down. Dan Patrick can't. We are here while Dan Patrick has the power to hide the truth of the Alamo because the state is funding them to some extent. Dan Patrick doesn't have the power to keep you uninformed because you have ensured that a politics done right can exist on a KPFT, where all we're concerned about is giving the truth, fact-based information and doing it with a touch of love. So please give us a call, 713-526-5738, extension number 1 to donate, or go to kpft.org and click that donate button, select politics done right, and choose whatever thank you that you want. And folks, could you do that now? Sandy's going to speak a little bit while he's doing a pitch to try to get more. Opportune time to call in. We're not going to get to the Guadalupe Hidalgo until Sandy can get some words in, and while he's doing, those that are listening to me now can give us a call for the Guadalupe Hidalgo. Thank you, Sandy. Are you there?
I am here, Egberto. Thank you. And interesting topic this morning. These are things you would never really realize if you went out and saw the film loop that they're running at the Alamo, at least last time I was there. So this is a good, enlightening conversation, or a good way to remember really what things were about. You're right. Winners rewrite history. KPFT is here to have dialogues, conversations, and to shine a light on facts. Oh, no, facts, not facts. Yes, facts. And these are good reminders. And you're right, Egberto. We learn history so we don't repeat the mistakes. Here we are on a road here in 2026, looking like we're watching reruns from the 1920s and maybe hopefully not the 1930s, but it sure looks like it. So it's a good idea to bring this kind of topic to light on our FM, 100,000 watt FM airwaves. We are trying to raise some money. We do have a goal of $500. And Aaron, thank you for getting us going with a small pledge. But most of that sum remains. And so far, 40 minutes into the program, that is the only pledge. Now, a couple of you out there can certainly do $5 or $10 a month. Think about it. I know times are scary, getting scarier by the minute, it would seem. But there are a number of you out there that $5 or $10 a month wouldn't really, would hardly be noticeable. So if you can, if you're in a position to do that, 713-526-5738, option 1. Looking for some donations here. $100 gets you a Politics Done Right t-shirt or the new long sleeve Fall Fun Drive t-shirt with a beautiful design by our own James Nagel, the Blues Hound. And you just select your size. It's butter color and has a beautiful picture of I guess it might be an oak tree. I'm not sure. Large tree with its leaves turning and the fall coming. And again, butter color, long sleeves. So $100 donation gets you that, but it also gets you KPFT. We can continue. It's expensive running this operation. There's no question about it. And we're constantly fighting aging technology that we're working with, trying to get spare parts, trying to keep things running. It's not easy, but if you don't have money, it's impossible. We need to keep this station on the airways. Together we get through this. 643 of you have already made that decision that this is a good idea, at least once, twice, maybe multiple times in some cases. But some of you have not made a donation at all. Please support what you're listening to. Please join in the community effort to keep KPFT going into 2026. We're asking because we need the money, and we're asking because if we don't and the money doesn't come in, it'd be impossible for KPFT to be here. But for 55 and a half years, it hasn't worked that way. It's worked quite the opposite, where we do our fund drives and listeners respond. And when they do, KPFT is able to continue. 713-526-5738, option 1, a $10 a month donation. There are two ways you can go. You can request a restaurant, a gift card. A couple of pizza places and a barbecue joint has donated those gift cards. So $10 a month donations. When you call up, ask about that gift card. If that's not your bent, perhaps at this hour you're thinking of one thing and one thing only. Where is that second cup of coffee? Well, for a $10 a month donation, we can give you an answer because you'll get a pound of Lola Savannah coffee beans and a mug to drink it from, the Caroline Street mug. You want to up that $20, we'll get you a KPFT thermos bottle to pour that coffee in and take with you as you start your day. 713-526-5738, option 1, or kpft.org. Please do your part, and let's get this $500 goal accomplished before we get to Amy Goodman this morning. Egberto, back to you.
Thank you so kindly, Sandy. Thank you. Remember the Alamo, folks. We're still near $500 away from our goal. Do we have any angels out there that want to just say, I am going to throw $500 so that Egberto can shut up and he finished that stuff with the Alamo? 713-526-5738, extension number 1, or kpft.org hit the donate button. Let's go to Augie real quick, and then John. Come on in, Augie.
Yeah, good morning. I talked once before about the Battle of the Alamo. It was 13 days is only a small period in its long history. And people talk about Texas Independence Day. When I was growing up and talking about Texas history, it wasn't independence, it was secession from Mexico. And those American immigrants that came in were illegal immigrants. They're the first illegal immigrants into Texas. And they had to learn Spanish if they wanted to do business here in Mexico, because all the business documents and government documents were in Spanish. So Sam Houston had to learn Spanish. And to think about one of my great grandfathers was in the Mexican army at that time. He was one of Santa Anna's generals. They said he was the best one. But Santa Anna kept him away from the Battle of the Alamo because he didn't want to share any glory with anybody else. But anyway, I just thought I'd put that in.
Well, thank you. So we are here. One of our donors is royalty. Thank you very much for that, Augie. Appreciate you. All right.
Yeah, I'll call back later. Bye-bye.
Take care, buddy. Let's go to John, Minneapolis. Come on in, John.
I wanted to say, as we have a politics of the people, we also have a people's history. And, there have been many good books written about that. And Howard Zinn comes to mind. But I studied social history, and it's just amazing, what ordinary people and the cultures they create and how they interrelate with the elite. We don't need a history of the elite. We need a history of the people.
Absolutely. So, and let me tell you something, John. One of the reasons they create alternate history, or they only want to tell you certain sections, is actually for control. And I'm going to get into a little bit about that. Probably not. I don't have the time to do it today, but I'm going to get into that. I'm going to just kind of touch on the Guadalupe Hidalgo Treaty. But these are things that we should know about. But that said, John, I got to do a little bit more pitching to try to get some income in, because we are $500. So thank you so kindly, my brother, for calling.
You're welcome.
All right, folks, as we wait here, please give us a call, 713-526-5738, extension number 1. To donate, or go to kpft.org if you're just joining us. I want to say welcome aboard Ken F. Good morning. Lee the Bearcat from Austin, Texas. Welcome. Lisa Blair from Atlanta, Georgia, as well as Harry Denson from Missouri City, Texas. Thank you so kindly for being here. Lynette, I'm not sure why you can't hear. Please go ahead and refresh. Maybe that'll do it for you. I hope that's the only problem you're having, but I am looking at the signals, and the signals say that it is transmitting. So please check yourself and let me know when you can be heard again. Welcome aboard, Cheryl. Good morning. Stephen Gamble, Linda, Darlene, Michelle Stapleton, Cheryl Moody. Thank you all for being here. Wonderful having all of you here in the chat. Let me just say, from Republic of Texas to U.S. annexation. After the revolution, Texas became an independent republic, but remained economically and culturally tied to the American South. It was a republic to, as Augie just said, to secede from Mexico. It immediately legalized slavery in its new constitution and sought U.S. annexation. For nearly a decade, Mexico refused to recognize Texas independence, seeing it as an illegal secession engineered by the United States. When the U.S. annexed Texas in 1845, it treated the territory's southern border as the Rio Grande, while Mexico recognized the Nueces River as the legitimate boundary. This disagreement became the spark for the next phase of the imperial expansion, the Mexican-American War. The Mexican-American War was ended with what again? Under President John Polk, with what again? The Guadalupe Hidalgo Treaty. President James J. Polk, an expansionist, Democrat, and slaveholder, deliberately provoked Mexico into war by sending U.S. troops into the disputed territory between the Nueces and the Guadalupe and the Rio Grande. The war justified through the ideology of manifest destiny. The belief that white Americans were divinely ordained to expand across the continent was a truth, a land grab aimed at extending slaveholding territory and consolidating U.S. power. The war ended with the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo in 1848, which forced Mexico to cede nearly half of its territory, what is now California, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, and parts of Colorado and Wyoming. In exchange, the U.S. paid $15 million, a sum that could not compensate for the enormous loss of land and national dignity. So, folks, let me just say that, first of all, I want to give a humongous thank you to Iria, muchísimas gracias por tu donación. Thank you so kindly for your donation. We couldn't do without you. We're still a few $100s away, folks. So give us a call, 713, please, 526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738, extension number 1, or go to kpft.org, hit that donate button, and we can get started. we can get a few more funds in. Look, I have a couple of videos to play, but I can't do it because we got to pitch. And we got to pitch because our contributions have not come in fast this morning. So sorry about that. But remember, you can always listen to the videos or watch the videos by going to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter, where I have the complete show there with talking points and the whole works. So you can go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter for that. But for right now, we really do need to raise the funds. And as we raise the funds, we'll speak a little bit. I'm going to throw it back to Sandy for a little. I want to give a big thank you to Professor Steve. Let me just tell you guys, I won't use last names here, but I can tell you right out here that this professor is one of what I call our guiding lights. I've learned a whole lot from this man. He teaches at a school. I won't name the school either, but I can tell you one thing. It's always good when you have good educators, as LBW will know, who's here with us. I have a thing for people who are educators because you guys are the ones moving all knowledge forward. You are the ones moving, and the level of respect I know from Panama. Whenever we saw a professor, a teacher, we stood at attention. That is how special we grew up as for people who were educators. And it's sad that that's not what we have out here now. But I tell you what, folks, that is where we need to go. And that is what's going to save our country. Education. And of course, Augie, Royalty Augie, who is a great donor to this station, just gave a very good contribution to our program, Politics Done Right. He gives all over the place on this station. I just want to thank him for what he does to keep this station alive, which is quite a bit. Folks, we can still use some more contributions. 713-526-5738, extension number 1 to donate, or go to kpft.org, kpft.org. Let me just say this. My daughter was Army and became a teacher. Well, your daughter served a first term, and now she's serving a second term. Because as my daughter would say, being a teacher is in fact being like in the army of the people but at least you're an officer in the army as well as officer in the teaching reign. I love teachers. I mean, I just love teachers. You guys are great. Mark, Ali, Curtis, thank you for being here. Welcome aboard. Anyway, folks, 713-526-5738. Extension number 1, or go to kpft.org and click the donate button. There's a lot more that I want to talk about on the subject of the Alamo and why these things and why do they try to change history, etc. But I don't want to change a new direction right now because we don't have the time. And when you're discussing these issues, context is so very important. And when you're speaking to an audience on these types of subjects, you want to make sure that context is revealed, because you don't want somebody on the right to cut what you say if you say it in a disjointed manner and misrepresent what you said. Just like they misrepresent the Alamo, they cut it they just want to talk about 13 days of bravery, but bravery for what? And then later, what is it? Martyrdom for what? And that requires a whole lot of context. But let me just tell you, what's going on in our country right now is, in fact, one of the reasons they don't want you educated. One of the reasons they don't want to teach things like, they don't want you to think critically. One of the reasons they want to throw shade on things like DEI and all these other issues is really singular, controlling you, controlling your mind, so that they can have you do as they please. This is not conjecture. This is what's being done right now. I mean, our economic system could not exist without this bifurcation of humanity. Our economic system could not exist if we didn't have racism, sexism, and all the other isms. And the reason our economic system could not exist without that, without those cancers, is because if we lived in harmony, which we should, if we lived in harmony, all of us would realize exactly what is the cause of our problems, both economically and socially. Lynette, I'm so happy that your daughter as well is you were a teacher, Lynette. Lynette was a teacher. Lynette, power to you, sis. Exactly, Christine McAfee. It's divide and conquer. And that is the one thing we are not going to allow. That is the one thing we are going to fight. Anyway, classism also. Yeah, you're right about that, John A. Davis. Classism is a problem as well. Anyway, we are at the top of the hour. So let me go ahead and say this is KPFT Houston. Folks, I am going to go one more time to Sandy, then I'm going to close her out. Sandy.
Thank you, Egberto. And thank you to Stephen, Iria, and Aaron for making donations this morning. We're still exactly $95 away from our goal of $500 this morning. I'd like to blow past that, but you got to make it first. So we still need a couple of you out there to step up and support what you're listening to, what we're all listening to. KPFT is licensed by the FCC as a community radio station. We have certain obligations to maintain that license, such as educational broadcasts like you're listening to this morning. 713-526-5738, option 1, or KPFT.org. And again, just one of you out there doing $10 a month will make that goal. A couple of you will shatter the goal. And maybe somebody out there, even as we have hit in this third week, head into this third week of fundraising here. Thursday will mark the end of the second week. So we still have a couple days to go for that. But one of you doing $1,000 will get us a long way. So far, we got $105,667. Not too much further to go. It sounds like a lot. In November, as this fund drive continues, all those sustainers that continue their sustaining membership that signed up last November will add to the kitty. So that will get us even closer. That won't happen until early November. This morning, right here on October 27th at 7:01 a.m., we're looking for you to be that last piece of the puzzle that completes the picture for this program, makes the goal. 713-526-5738, option 1, or kpft.org. Coffee combos, we have a $75 shopping bag that's been redefined. It's got the Caroline Street studio pictured on one side and the Lovett Boulevard studio, which we've now abandoned for a few years, on the other side. Nice piece of apparel to take to the grocery store and do your shopping with and avoid the plastic. 713-526-5738 or kpft.org. Thank you for what you do, Egberto. Good show today.
Thank you so kindly. Thank you so kindly. Elwin says, I will pledge 50. Thank you, Elwin. Thank you so kindly. Thank you so kindly. Now, here is the thing. Our mainstream media, these guys have the research dollars, and a lot of them are doing the research. Don't get me wrong at all. The problem is, while they're doing the right thing as far as journalism is concerned, references, narration, and context is not done correctly. It's just like what Dan Patrick just did. If there's one way that we have to present it, and it's in that they want to present it, and it's an ideological manner. That is the reason we got Trump. That is the reasons we get bad things, because reporting is no longer free as it should be. No longer free as it should be. So folks, KPFT has the ability to be free because you are the liberators of KPFT. You are the ones that allow us. You're the ones that fund us and allows us to be able to be truthful, both in reality and context. Joe says, thank you, Egberto. From Nicholas from Venice, California, listening with Joanna. Thank you very much, Nicholas and Joanna from California. Thank you guys so kindly. Anyway, I'm going to pass it to the studio for some closing remarks.
Not a thing here from me. Jack, you got something? Hey, we want to thank Augie for sending in his donation this morning, too. $300.
Oh,
$300, Augie, yes. And
Augie,
Aaron,
thank you.
Let's see, Iria, $300. Stephen, $100. You made your goal and then some. So why don't we get our our real general manager in to comment on that? We made our goal, Sandy.
Hey, thanks, people. Thank you, everybody. Augie, thank you over and over and over again. Augie does way more than, well, maybe a lot of other folks, but without folks like Augie, we wouldn't have this station. Now, look, if you've never made a donation, you're listening to us pitch and you're going, man, they just keep asking for money. I want to hear the programming. Well, we all want to hear the programming. We don't want to do this. Join us at $5 a month as a sustainer. Your pledge is matched by a group on our local station board. A few dollars are added to it every time somebody becomes a sustainer. $5 a month. Come on. If you're listening and you're on the way to work, hopefully your job pays you enough you can part with $5 a month. For those of you not in a position to donate, that's very understandable. It happens. I've been there. We've all been there, at least a lot of us. But if you got that, do it. Just join us, become part of the family that's supporting this radio station. Super essential, super important. We need KPFT. We need the freedom of the airwaves. It's disappearing. Free speech is under attack, plainly. A lot of NPR stations, PBS stations, community stations are struggling. A number of them are not with us because they can't afford it. We rely on our listeners to maintain what we have. And this is the idea here. Now we're going to roll into democracy now. We'll reset the goal because with this one, Egberto, again, thank you for what you do. Studio folks, and this morning, Jack and Howard, thank you for what you do. All of us together make this happen. So let's fund it all together as well. Thank you, Egberto.
Thank you so kindly, Sandy. Anyway, Howard, and one more time, Howard and Jack, anything to say before I close the wrap?
That's it. We were just wanting to congratulate the folks who donated this morning.
They are our heroes. They are our heroes. Anyway, folks, remember the rest of the program can be found at politicsandright.com/newsletter, politicsandright.com/newsletter. You can write me directly, email me directly at kpft@politicsandright.com, kpft@politicsandright.com. I love you all dearly, and you know that's from the depths of my heart. Love you all. My name is Egberto. Willies, this is Politics Done Right, and you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out. Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto Willies.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage.